Have you ever looked at him, at your man, the one by your side, or the one you wish was, and felt an invisible wall standing between you? A wall made not of brick or stone, but of something far denser, of silence, of things left unsaid, of an energy that pulsates just beneath the surface of his skin, but that you can never quite touch. You try to understand. You ask questions that go unanswered, dissolving into thin air. You search for clues in his fleeting glances, in his weary gestures, in the way he closes the door behind him. You run through all the possible reasons in your mind. You think his secret is another woman, lurking in the shadows of his phone. You think it's a fear of real commitment, a fear of losing the freedom he values so much. You write it all off to his job, to stress, to the difficult past he speaks of so reluctantly. You convince yourself that his greatest weakness is his pride, his immense ego, his innate male inability to open up and talk about his feelings. You build theories. You consult your friends. You read articles. But all of this is just running in circles because you're looking in the wrong place. But what if everything you thought was just a smokescreen? What if his greatest secret, his true Achilles heel, the one he will not only never speak of, but may not even be aware of himself, is not what he is hiding from you, but what he is desperately, silently awaiting from you? This isn't a weakness in the conventional, belittling sense of the word. It's not a flaw, a defect, or a vice. It is his deepest, most primal, and most sacred need, a need that the entire world, starting with his own father, taught him to despise, to conceal, to suppress from his earliest childhood. And when you understand this need, when you learn not just to see it, but to speak to it in its only possible language, the language of silence, acceptance, and presence, you won't just get his attention. You will get all of him completely, utterly, because you will give him something he has possibly never received in his entire life. Carl Jung, the great explorer of the human soul, would say that every person has a persona, the mask we wear. For society, for a man, this mask is forged from the hardest steel. Strength, confidence, control, success, resolve. He is the warrior. He is the provider. He is the problem solver. And his greatest weakness, his secret bleeding wound, is a desperate, almost childlike longing for a space where he can take off this damned, heavy mask and not be immediately judged or rejected for it. His secret weakness is an all-consuming thirst to be seen, not for his achievements, not for his strength, not for his intellect, not for his bank account, but to be seen in his chaos, in his doubt, in his cosmic weariness, in his deafening silence. You think you'll get everything if you are the most beautiful, the smartest, the most successful, the most perfect homemaker. You think you need to challenge him, to compete with him, to prove that you are his equal. But all of that is just interacting with his mask. You are simply knocking on his armor, failing to understand that the one inside, suffocating, dreams of only one thing: for someone, without trying to break the armor, to simply walk quietly into his fortress, sit down beside him, and finally let him breathe. What I am about to tell you is not a set of manipulative techniques. This is deep psychology, an alchemy of the soul. This is knowledge that doesn't give you power over him. It gives you the key to him. And when you have the key, you don't need to break down the door. He will open it himself. And what you will receive behind that door won't just be everything that the glossy magazines write about. It will be something much greater. It will be his naked, trusting soul. To understand the full depth of this masculine mystery, we must journey into the past, to the very origins, to the time when his armor was forged. Picture a little boy. From the first day he becomes aware of himself, the world gets to work. On the anvil of societal expectations, with the hammer blows of parental conditioning, they begin to lock him into his armor. Don't cry, you're not a girl. Be strong, you're a man. Fight back, don't be weak. Solve your own problems, don't complain. Every tear that doesn't fall is a searing crack in his soul, immediately filled with the cold cement of shame. Every expression of doubt is a sign of weakness to be rooted out, burned away with a hot iron. He is taught not to feel, but to act. Not to reflect, but to conquer. His vast, complex inner world, full of color, fear, tenderness, and confusion, is declared hostile territory to be controlled and suppressed. This is what Jung called the shadow all that is living, instinctual, and vulnerable, which we deny, and relegate to the dark basements of our unconscious. From childhood, a man learns to live in a state of a permanent civil war with his own soul. He becomes the strictest warden of his own prison, and his persona the mask of the warrior, the hero, the unshakable rock becomes his second skin. He merges with it so completely that he sometimes forgets who he really is underneath it all. He remembers only one thing. If anyone sees the real him, weak and afraid, he is finished. This fear becomes the background noise of his entire life, a quiet but constant hum that forces him to run faster, to achieve more, just so he doesn't have to stop and look within. And so he grows up. He builds a career, makes money, buys cars, achieves success. He does everything he was taught. He becomes the epitome of masculinity. But deep inside, in the darkest and dustiest dungeons of his soul, that same little boy still sits, the one who was never allowed to cry on his mother's shoulder, the one who was never told, "I love you not for your good grades and your victories, but just because you exist. You can be tired. You can be afraid. It's okay. I'm still with you." And then he meets you, and his soul, starved for acceptance, against his will, against his ironclad control, begins to send out quiet, almost imperceptible signals. He begins to test you. This is not a conscious manipulation. Remember this. It is an unconscious test, a seismic probe that his soul lowers into your depths to measure them. He falls silent. He becomes distant, cold, pensive. It's as if he is asking without words, "So what will you do now? Can you withstand my darkness? Can you endure my nothingness? Or will you become afraid, just like everyone else, including myself?" And what do most women do, led by their own fears and anxieties? They immediately begin to panic. Their own fear of abandonment, their own anxiety, immediately enters into a volatile chemical reaction with his silence. What's wrong? Don't you love me anymore? Did I do something wrong? Talk to me. We need to talk this out. They start to fuss, to demand, to invade his space with dozens of questions, offering unsolicited solutions, giving advice. Their intentions may be the best after all. They want to help. But the result of their actions is a catastrophe. With their panic, with their fussing, they are screaming right in his face. Your silence is a problem. Your vulnerability is dangerous. Your shadow is unbearable. Please, put your mask back on. I'm much more comfortable with it. And so he complies. He does what he has been taught to do his whole life. He puts on the heavy armor again. The wall between you grows thicker, higher. He receives yet another painful confirmation of his primary childhood lesson. His true self must be hidden away. And even here, with this woman, whom he may love with all his heart, he will have to play a role. He cannot rest here. He cannot be himself. He failed the test. Or rather, she did. Now, imagine a different scenario. A scenario that requires of you an incredible amount of inner strength and self-sufficiency. He falls silent. He pulls away. And you do nothing. You do not invade. You do not demand. You do not panic. You simply are. You continue to live your life. You drink your tea. You read your book, you go about your business, but your presence is filled not with prickly anxiety, but with a soft, warm calm, not with judgment, but with acceptance, not with expectation, but with permission. You create a cocoon of safe, accepting silence around him. Your silent message, which he reads not, with his mind but with his soul, sounds like this. I see your silence. It doesn't scare me. I see your shadow. It doesn't repel me. I am here. You don't need to entertain me. You don't need to be strong for me right now. You can just be. Rest. This is the key. This is the alchemy. His greatest, most secret, most shameful weakness is that he is absolutely powerless before a woman who is not afraid of his silence. A woman who, with her calm presence, gives him unspoken permission to take off his damned armor that is fused to his flesh. This is not passivity. This is the highest form of spiritual action, because in this silent, loving acceptance, a true miracle occurs. A man who has spent his whole life building an impregnable fortress around himself suddenly discovers that someone is not trying to storm his walls, not ramming his gates with demands, but has simply lit a small, warm fire at the foot of his fortress and is waiting silently, warming the cold, moss-covered stone with her presence alone. He feels that his inner world, his chaos, his shadow for the first time in his life, is not just being tolerated, but is being accepted as something natural, as part of the landscape. He is given space, and in this sacred space, he begins to heal. He begins to trust. He may be silent for a day, a week, a month, but at some point, when his inner warden, his distrustful Cerberus, is convinced that you will not attack or judge, he himself, with creaking, rusty hinges, will pry open the heavy door to his soul. He will say something small, share a minor doubt, a fleeting thought that has been gnawing at him. And at that moment, that most crucial moment, it is vital not to pounce on him with advice and ready-made solutions, but simply to listen, to nod, to say, I understand, and to once again allow the healing silence to do its work. You become more than just a woman to him. You become a sanctuary for him, the only place in this cruel, demanding world where he can be not a hero, not a warrior, but simply a tired human being. And believe me, he will hold on to such a place as a drowning man holds onto the only life raft in the middle of a frozen ocean. A woman who has mastered the art of accepting presence becomes absolutely irreplaceable to a man, because she gives him not sex, not dinner, not comfort. She gives him what Jung called integration. She helps him get to know his own shadow, accept it, and become whole. She becomes his anima living bridge, a guide to his own soul. And when they say get everything, it's not about money, gifts, and the fulfillment of your every whim. It's about him voluntarily, joyfully, handing you the keys to his inner citadel. He will begin to share with you his most secret thoughts and his most shameful fears. He will consult with you not because he can't decide for himself, but because your opinion, your feeling, will become his tuning fork for the truth. He will protect you in your shared space with the fury of a lion, because that space is the only place in the universe where he can be truly alive. You will cease to be a function for him, a lover, a wife, the mother of his children. You will become his meaning. And this is not a poetic exaggeration. This is pure, deep psychology, the work of archetypes. A man instinctively seeks the one who will help him find his soul, his wholeness. And when he finds her, all other women, no matter how beautiful or seductive, cease to exist for him. Not because he swore an oath of loyalty, but because they only offer him what is on the surface. They interact with his mask, while you have given him access to his own unexplored depths. But this path, the path to obtaining the key, requires a transformation from you that is no less, and possibly greater, than the one he must undergo. This key is not given lightly. Its price is your own wholeness. You cannot give him peace if an ocean of anxiety is raging within you. You cannot accept his silence if you yourself are terrified of being alone with yourself. You cannot withstand his shadow if you are not acquainted with your own. This is why this path is not for everyone. It is far easier and more familiar to demand, to blame, to manipulate, to try to control. It is far more difficult to embark on the long and sometimes painful journey deep into yourself, and to create there, at the center of your being, a stillness so unshakable, so radiant, that it can absorb any storm of his. You will have to come face to face with your own demons, with your fear of abandonment, which makes you cling to him, with your need to control everything, which makes you invade his space, with your savior complex, which makes you solve his problems just to feel needed and important. When he falls silent and you don't panic, you are not challenging him. You are challenging your own traumas. Your panic is not just concern. It is the scream of your own wounded animus, your inner masculine, which cannot stand passivity, uncertainty, and a lack of control. It demands action, clarity, solutions. By invading his silence, you are actually trying to calm the storm inside yourself. You are trying to fix him in order to fix your own sense of security. You are not seeing him. You are only seeing the reflection of your own anxiety in the mirror of his silence. And when you realize this, you are given the chance to heal yourself. Every time you choose not to react to his silence with panic, but instead to sink into your own stillness, you take power away from your traumas and return it to yourself. You become the sovereign of your own inner world, and only from this state of self-possession, inner fullness, and peace can you truly give him what he so desperately needs. He will feel it. He will feel your strength, which lies not in volume, but in silence, not in action, but in presence. Think of the metaphor. A man is the sea. On the surface, there can be waves, a storm, an icy calm. This is his persona, his reactions to the external world. Most women try to swim on these waves, to fight the storm, or to melt the ice. They spend all their energy interacting with the surface. But you, knowing his secret, do something different. You become the ocean depths for him. Absolutely calm, warm, and accepting. A place where the storms from the surface cannot penetrate. And when he grows tired of the tempests of the external world, he instinctively dives. He sinks into you, into your silence, into your acceptance, to rest, to heal, and to restore his strength. He knows that there, in the deep, no one will judge him. There, he is absolutely safe. And the more often he dives, the more attached he will be to you, not to your appearance, not to your success, but to this sacred state that you give him. He may not even be aware of why he is so irresistibly drawn to you. He will simply feel, with her, I feel good. With her, I can be silent. With her, I am real. He will not say to you, my greatest weakness is my existential need for the acceptance of my vulnerability. He will say, I don't know what I would do without you. And that will be the highest form of acknowledgement. It is important to understand. This acceptance of his vulnerability does not mean indulging his weaknesses or his immaturity. It's not about becoming his mother, who solves all his problems and wipes his tears. This is a very fine but critically important line. Jung spoke of the archetype of the eternal youth, the pure eternus, who lives in many modern men. This is the part of his soul that fears responsibility, avoids difficulty, and craves perpetual maternal care. If you start to save him, if you take on his responsibilities, you will be feeding this very eternal youth, and he will never grow into his inner king. Your task is not to become his mother. Your task is to become his sacred space. A mother decides for her child, A sacred space gives a king room to think so he can make his own decision. A mother says, "You poor thing, let me do it all for you." The keeper of the sacred space says, "I see how hard this is for you. I believe in your strength. You will handle this." Do you see the difference? In the first case, you take his power away. In the second, you affirm it, even at the moment when he doubts it himself. And this sacred space has its own unshakable boundaries. Accepting his shadow, his sadness, his fear, his weariness by no means implies accepting disrespect, aggression, or betrayal. Your silence and acceptance are a precious gift, not an obligation. And this gift is given to one who values it and respects you. If he crosses a line, your calm must transform from a warm ocean into an immovable granite cliff. You do not scream. You do not accuse. You do not become hysterical. You simply and firmly, looking him in the eye, say no. You calmly and confidently define your boundaries. And this, too, is part of the healing process for both of you. A man must know that his queen accepts his weaknesses, but will never tolerate disrespect toward her kingdom. Only then will he learn to truly value the space you give him. Stop asking him, "What are you thinking?" Instead, learn to think alongside him in silence. Stop trying to cheer him up when he is gloomy. Instead, just be near, sharing his state without words, as if to say, "I am with you in this." Stop giving him advice when he shares a problem. Instead, say, "That must be very difficult. I am here if you need anything." You shift the focus from "I want to get from you" to "I am here for you." And this seemingly simple shift changes absolutely everything. Because in a world where everyone wants something from him, his money, his status, his decisions, his strength, you become the only one who demands nothing. You simply give him the space to be. And that is the most precious and rare gift a man can receive from a woman in the modern world. So what do you get in the end? You get more than just a husband or a partner. You get a man who is devoted to you at a soul level. A man who sees in you not just a woman, but his guide, his guardian, his salvation. A man who will be ready to move mountains not to impress you, but to protect the world you have created together. The world where he was finally able to become himself. And that, my dear, is everything. Perhaps, listening to these words now, you feel a deep, resonant echo within you. Perhaps you recall moments when you acted this way intuitively, without understanding why, and saw his face soften and his shoulders relax. Or maybe, with a pang of pain, you see your own mistakes, your own fussing, your own panicked inability to bear his silence. This is not a reason for self-flagellation. It is a reason for awareness. This is not a verdict, but an invitation. An invitation to your own growth. To attain such inner silence and strength that you can become this sanctuary for him. It is a path from the desire to get to the ability to give on the deepest, most energetic level. And paradoxically, it is in giving this peace that you will receive everything. Do you feel it? This shift inside? This quiet but clear understanding that true feminine power lies not in pressure, but in acceptance. Not in words, but in silence. Not in fighting with his mask, but in a wordless invitation to his soul to speak. If this message has resonated with you, if it has lit this small but important spark of understanding within you, do not let it go out. Share this video with a woman who you feel needs to hear this. Like and subscribe if you want to continue this journey with us into the deep toward these truths, and write one single word in the comments, "He," so that I know you have understood what this is truly about, that you are ready not just to knock on a closed door, but to patiently and lovingly search for that secret key that will open for you not only his heart, but his very soul. And then you will truly receive everything. and even more.